Hi everyone, it's Rusty here again, and today I'm going to round out my discussion of the big three. Those are the three heaviest items in most people's packs, and that is your shelter, your sleep system, and the pack itself. So today I'm going to be talking about the pack. And after that, I'll get into some final words about equipment weight and cost. Stay tuned. Okay, before I get started, I just want to emphasize again that I'm just listing what my equipment is. New hikers all the time, they'll run into me on the trail, they'll see that I'm a relatively experienced hiker, not as much as most of the guys with YouTube channels, and they'll ask me what is my equipment. So this is just my equipment to give you ideas of the sorts of things that you have to be concerned about. Now when it comes to actually picking out your own equipment, I recommend you just do your own online research with the different manufacturers and then go to YouTube and see if you can find a review by an experienced hiker of whatever equipment you're going to use, because there's plenty of them out there. So let's look at backpacks. In the past, this is what we had. Backpacks, they've simplified considerably over the past 50 years. But in the past, we had external frame backpacks and internal frame backpacks. Now, the external frame backpack is what I'm showing here. I don't recall how much this weighs, at probably around 5 or 6 pounds, which if you're trying to keep your big three under 8, you can't afford 6 pounds anymore for your backpack. But that's what it was like 50 years ago. You strapped your sleeping bag to the outside, probably strapped your tent to the top. In this particular picture, I didn't happen to have my tent with me, but that's the way it was. And then we generally went to internal frame backpacks, and this is the one that I had. It weighed just under 5 pounds. It had lots of pockets for putting things into because we thought that's what was needed. Well, it turns out that's really not necessary. So instead of an external frame pack or an internal frame pack, I use what I call barely a frame pack. I happen to use a Z-Packs Arc Blast 55 liter capacity. That's usually how backpacks are measured as far as capacity. It's a very simple design, not a lot of extraneous pocket. And the reason is I have a particular hiking routine and this meets my needs the best. Now Z-Packs, by the way, is one of these cottage industry manufacturers, makes high quality and expensive lightweight equipment. For my hiking routine, I actually divide my equipment into these categories, and this is how my pack fits into it. First, A are these pockets on the side. It's stuff I need constant access to, such as my water bottles and snack bars that I'm going to use throughout the day. In other words, things I want to be able to reach without taking the pack off. There's a mesh pocket labeled B here, and there's where I put stuff in that I may need somewhat immediate access to, but it's not a big deal to take off the pack because I'm not constantly reaching for it. Things like my raincoat, things like my water filter, bug spray, sunblock. Those are the sorts of things that it's not a big deal for me to take the pack off to get to them because I'm not going to be constantly reaching and getting them. The stuff in pockets A, I may actually get into while I'm walking down the trail. Section C here, which is just my tent in this case, and that's stuff that I need immediately at camp. I want to be able to get it without having to open up my backpack. For example, in this case, it's just my tent, but the reason I may need that when I first get into a camp is if it's threatening rain or it's already raining, I want to be able to get the tent set up without opening up my pack to get to it. I don't want to expose any of the stuff inside my pack to rain. And then section D, or partition D, which is the stuff I just use at camp, and that is the stuff that is in my pack. So the arrow indicates it's actually inside the pack, and usually inside a liner that I have in there. And then finally, E is my hydration pack, which I put between the liner and the interior surface of the backpack, and then I run a hose out, and that's how I get the water there. This is the way I pack. I'm actually going to cover this in more detail when I get into my series on routine. So the pack has an arc in it. This is a Z-Pack specialty. Remember, it was the Arc Blast model that I have. And the arc in the back, it just keeps the pack off your back. It's rubbing against your back. It's a comfort measure, plus it reduces sweat and a dreaded condition known as swamp ass. And that's when the sweat just rolls down your back into your crack, and it actually prevents that from happening. The airflow actually keeps the sweat, especially if you're using a wicking shirt or something of that sort, and it keeps sweat from building up on your back. The belt is interchangeable. What happened to me was I had a larger belt, but I lost 40 pounds, so I had to order the smaller belt. My tent attaches to the outside, like I showed on the previous slide, leaving me the full 55 liter capacity for everything else that I need. I also use an inner liner since the pack itself is not waterproof, it's only water resistant, and that's common with packs, and you'll see a lot of people will be throwing a pack cover on when it starts to rain. Well, with me, by having that liner protecting everything that needs to be protected from water, I don't need a pack cover. If it rains, the pack gets wet, well, so be it. My bottle of bug lotion is not going to get damaged by having water on it. My toilet paper I also keep in the mesh back there because I might want to get to that quickly, is in a waterproof bag. My rain suit, well, it's made to get wet. That's the whole point of it. So those are the things that are in that mesh, so I don't care if they get wet. The things in the pockets that I marked as A, my water bottle, well, who cares if that gets wet? And of course my snack bars, they're in wrappers. The whole point of this is an efficient trail, it lends itself to an efficient trail routine. Multiple use here is that the liner can be used as a bear bag if necessary. So if I get into a camp where there's not a bear box, or if there is a bear pole or a bear line, or I have to do a bear hang, I can actually put all my food in the liner once I've got the pack into the tent and everything out of it. I can put all my food in there, and then I can use that as a waterproof bear bag. So one of the big problems with all this is the cost. This is expensive equipment, what I've got. So let's go over it one at a time. First of all, my tent. Now this is just the big three. My tent, it did not cost me $750, but this model, inflation due to the cooties pandemic, this model cost $750 to replace now. The backpack, about half that, $375. My sleeping bag, which if you recall was for a down into the mid-30s sort of sleeping bag, $395. Replacement cost, I didn't spend this much on it, but something close to that. My sleeping pad, about $200. My pillow, $45. My pack liner, $60. So that comes out to $1,825. Now, no sane person is going to go out and spend $2,000 just on this bit of equipment if they've never hiked before. And I hope you won't think that you're going to do that or that you need to do that. And I didn't do this all at once. I acquired all this equipment over time, replacing older things as newer things came up, and as what's called dialing in my equipment to determine what worked best for me. Now, it's perfectly possible to get suitable equipment for much less than that and still be under 9 pounds. I had said you really want to get your big three under 8 pounds, but if you're only going for a weekend, 9 pounds might be suitable. So here's an example of some of the items you could pick up. You could pick up a tent for about $300, and it would be less than 3 pounds. Now that would be a Nemo or a Big Agnes. Those are two brands that I see a lot of hikers have. Again, do your research, go online, look at the prices, look at the weights, and then look for reviews by other YouTubers who will actually review specific equipment. You get a backpack. I looked up, I found an Osprey backpack for around $200, which was less than 3 pounds. Sleeping bag you could get for about $200. The one I happened to find was a Marmot. It was also less than 2 pounds. Now that only went down to 46 degrees as its comfort level, but if you're going to be just camping and hiking in the summer, that may actually be suitable for you, at least to get started. Now, just be aware, if you're up in the backwoods of Maine, even in August, 46 degrees might not be enough. A pillow, well, a pillow is actually optional. I like it. You could do what I kind of cringed at, and that is stuff your clothes into a stuff sack and use that as a pillow. Put your dirty clothes in a gallon Ziploc bag, squish out all the air, and that would actually keep you from having to smell your clothes all night. And the pack liner. Well, I bought the $60 one that went with the pack itself, but in fact, a lot of people use trash compactor bags. And when this liner that I have breaks, rips, or whatever is no longer usable by me, I'm gonna go with the trash compactor bags. They're about 18 gallons, which is 68 liters. So that'll easily fit inside my 55-liter backpack. Add up all that, and it's about almost exactly half the cost of what the lightweight equipment was, and it's still under 9 pounds. So it can be done. So the weight of my big three, including the stuff sacks and the tent stakes, is 6 pounds. Now that's actually a little more than when I first made this video, which was like 5 pounds, 9 ounces, but I've added a few things to it. There's always a trade-off, and sometimes it's just worth the few ounces of extra weight for what I'm bringing with me. Now there are some categories, they're arbitrary, but people talk about lightweight hiking is when you have a base weight under 20 pounds. Now base weight is not the big three weight. The big three weight is only part of the base weight, and I'll get to that shortly. Or if you're doing ultra lightweight, your base weight under 10 pounds. I will never achieve the base weight under 10 pounds because there's a lot of other equipment I bring, and if my big 3 is 6 pounds, that only gives me 4 pounds for everything else other than consumables, and there's no way I'm going to get that under 4 pounds. I think the ultra lightweight hikers who do it, they're probably using a tarp instead of a tent, and they're saving a couple pounds there. They're going without a pillow. So my big 3, if I were to make that change, would be down to about 4¼ pounds. And it might be possible for me to do a 10-pound base weight, which I'll explain in a moment. But it's really not something that I'm striving for. So when we speak about weight, there are a bunch of weight categories. There's the big 3, which we've been talking about. Mine happens to come in at about 6 pounds. That's your tent, sleeping bag, and pack. Then there's base weight, which is not just the big 3, but it's everything else you carry with you, excluding your consumables. In other words, this is the minimum weight before you've piled water and food and fuel, cooking fuel into it. And there's a few other things that you could technically consider to be consumables, but their weight addition or what you'll use up on the trail is not going to save you all that much weight. Your toothpaste, your toilet paper. If you use a chemical water treatment, yeah, you're going to be using that up. A few other things in there. Items in your first aid kit if you end up using them. Those are all consumables technically, but really when we talk about consumables, we're really talking about food, water, and fuel. Now I'm trying to go for a starting weight of 30 pounds or less. So that means I have about 13 pounds that I can allocate to carrying water, fuel, and food. Now the water goes up and down throughout the day. If I'm in an area where I know water is going to be a problem, I might actually start out the morning with 3 liters. That's 6.6 pounds, almost 7 pounds when I consider my reserve bottle. So about 7 pounds of water. That only leaves me with 6 pounds for food. That's not actually a lot of food. So I typically try going with just 2 liters if I can get away with it, and that allows me, 2 liters is 4 pounds, so that allows me to have about 9 pounds of food. And 9 pounds of food should be able to get me through 4 or 5 days before I have to resupply again. So the way to deal with weight is not just to try to minimize everything. It's to figure out what function you desire, you need, makes you the most comfortable, and then minimize the equipment weight that still meets those needs or those desires. So thanks for listening to me about the big 3 of equipment. There's still a lot of other equipment I'm going to be talking about. Again, I'm not doing equipment reviews or I'm not doing product reviews, I should say, but I am doing equipment reviews. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you always know when I posted something new.